I mean, that's better than Josh had the idea when we were in high school of making a restaurant that only served Totino's party pizzas, just so that he could say after people ordered, that'll be 11 to 14 minutes. Oh, man. Yeah, for anyone who's missing just eating a Totino's pizza at 2 a.m.
That's your operating hours, just midnight to 3 a.m. Drive around town.
Rewatchers on the pod. Maybe I should say welcome back, but it makes no sense. All right, we're back, and if we sound like there's just a different energy, it's because I got a new haircut, and we're back together.
Yay!
We're within 6 feet of each other. We suck. No, I'm just kidding. We are safe and wonderful people, and we haven't seen each other for a few months, so this is really cool. We watch Godzilla, and I'm hosting. My name's Mitchell Marshall, and here are my co-hosts.
Tyler McKinley.
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler Harris.
Justin Hammer.
And this is Godzilla 1998. This is my first foray into Godzilla. I'm sure it's most, unless you're like, yeah, my dad was watching the Japanese version when I was a kid. But I remember enjoying it. I don't know if I ever rewatched it. I specifically remember a sleepover where we went to Blockbuster to try and get it. But you couldn't just Google if it was out yet. And his dad didn't really know. So he was like, let's just go.
Those were the days, though. Like, when you, like, the shock was, like, the hunt was on.
We ended up watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which was so fun for like 10-year-old kids, and then we just listened to Beastie Boys all night and I was like, one of my favorite sleepovers of all time. So thanks, Godzilla.
That's incredible.
Thanks, Matthew Broderick, who's in a different movie from everyone else in this movie. All right. So it's 1998 Godzilla, but if you haven't seen it, don't worry. I'm going to give you all the key details that you need right now. Oh boy, it's 2 hours and 18 minutes long. Gorilla destroys a Japanese ship. Matthew Broderick, a.k.a. Tatatapales, reminds us why his musicals are so revered when giving worm shock therapy. They steal the Jurassic Park footprint bit. Our female lead is part of an insanely inaccurate portrayal of local news. Meanwhile, discount Kathy Griffin thinks Broderick is cute. The film is officially lit. A shady insurance guy has arrived. Zilly is taking down fishing vessels near America. Broderick thinks it's nuclear mutated dinosaur. Bad New York accents in a diner. Oh snap, Mr. Zilla is wrecking New York City only 30 minutes into this movie. Hank Azaria risks it all for a great bit of footage, pardon the pun. The mayor has a sugar addiction. French insurance guy is here bugging the mayor, and we have a chutzpah sighting from our reporter in training. The military has arrived and Zilly has gone subterranean. They set up some fish bait, and it works. We finally get a glory shot of the big guy, and Ferris Bueller gets a disposable camera pick. I quote, "We need bigger guns." The missiles hit the Chrysler building instead of the monster, and the New York City looting has begun. We have a reunion of our journalist girl and the music man. My rom-com hopes for this film are alive. Clean, calm, and in a new outfit, seemingly, Broderick buys pregnancy test. Audrey ghosted Nick after he proposed. Those are the character names I've learned 1 hour into this movie. Big Mama Zilla's looking to nest. Turns out Nick has a Helga Arnold-style shrine to Hodgepodge in his little mobile office. She steals his VHS tape of military footage, and they let a non-reporter on the air in New York City. French insurance guy, a.k.a. Secret Service, kidnaps Nick. They are fast friends with lots of weapons, probably from Craigslist. The military gets Zilly back into the water and then hits him with some torpedoes. Nick and French guy find out Godzilla went to Madison Square Garden and laid more eggs than Nick's management. Ayo! They instantly start wreaking. They instantly hatch and start wreaking havoc on the cast. Hank Azaria, aka the Animal, and Audrey meet up with Frenchman and Ferris. They warn the city and get 6 minutes into the escape before they bomb Madison Square Garden. Oh, the gumball slippery trick works on dinosaurs as they escape. Epic kiss in the rain after a leap from explosion. Uh-oh, Mama G is back and real mad. Classic cab chase. Godzilla is nearly It's really erratic right now and pissed off about her babies, off of her game, slips and falls as well. But she can get the cab in her mouth, and they are literally in her mouth, as they state several times. Nick shocks her, and on Brooklyn Bridge, the F-18s finally take her down, but one egg is left. Please make the sequel. worst credit song of all time.
Dude, Netflix cut it off for me. I heard the beginning. I was like, "There's no way they remixed."
I wonder if they couldn't
just
get the rights.
But the whole intro was just,
It's
for like 5 minutes.
It's very bad.
Was that intended, or do you think that they couldn't get Netflix can't play whatever song was supposed to be there? Because that happens a lot with TV shows.
Honestly, if Netflix replaced it with that, fuck. I don't know.
Let's get the sequel thing out of the way, because this was panned, and it wasn't great financially, but they were going to make it, because Matthew Broderick and Jean Reno were each under contract for a total of 3 Godzilla films. And then
that contract still stands, so you never know when you're just going to have a Matthew Broderick Godzilla film thrown at you again.
I am ready for it.
And the main female who starred in it, they were like, we're going to kill off in the first act. No one likes her. And by the way, every Frenchman, when they name him on IMDb, the first name is Jean something. Jean-Luc.
Yeah. I noticed that's in the film. That's when they're introducing him. He's like, that's Jean-Luc. That's
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
So was this Gwen's pick?
That was my pick.
Why? No, I didn't dislike this. It's a little long.
It is a little long, which I didn't realize as a kid. But it was my first, like, quote unquote grown up movie that I ever saw in the theater, even though my mom covered my eyes for, parts of it. So I just have such nostalgia around this, like, first grown up movie. And Truman, my brother, would watch all of the old Godzillas. And so we would fight about this movie versus the old Godzilla. And I love Matthew Broderick. And you're giving me a look. Am I okay?
No, I just... Your experience with this movie is very different from mine.
The thing that I want to know is, how old was Truman when he was constructing arguments for Godzilla movies from the 50s? Because that is an incredibly on-brand thing for Truman to do.
Oh, like 7 or 8.
It makes me love him so much more, even. But yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
mean, we would fight about... we would in particular fight about whether the Godzilla that came back at the end to see the babies and chase the car was a new Godzilla, whether there were 2 all along, or the original one didn't die in the river.
I like that. Godzilla's theory.
Yes. But I had no concept of like how bad this movie was until Thursday when we rewatched it. I was like, oh yeah, this is super bad.
So had you
and rewatched
it between from when you were a kid?
I hadn't watched it in probably 10 years.
Wow. But you have this fondness for it. I can see it in your eyes.
Just love it. Yeah. I adore it with all my heart. Maybe just because Matthew Broderick, because he's the voice of Simba.
I think that's the thing that's throwing me off the most. What are your favorite Matthew Broderick roles?
Simba.
Okay.
The Music Man.
All right.
The end.
Because, like, my experience with Matthew Broderick, like, this movie, I'm like, they're not letting him do his thing.
Oh, no.
And
like, watching it this time, he totally phoned it in. Like, it just...
No Ferris Bueller in that list?
No, absolutely not. I hated that movie.
Oh, my God.
As a kid,
okay, but I watched it 15 years ago. I would give it another chance.
Okay.
As a kid, I also hated that movie, but as an adult, I appreciate it.
I love that movie.
I love it. I've loved it my whole life.
But
I would give it another chance.
in this movie, like, I don't think it's his fault. I think his character's not given a lot of Matthew Broderick to go with, and so...
Well, it's such an interesting lead. Clearly, he was written to be a nerd and a bumbler, but that is just... I can't think of other examples. Maybe it was a thing in the 90s that I'm not seeing, but where to lead an action thrill monster movie that you would have someone who's a qualified actor be your leading man and be that kind of character, he felt different from the rest of the people.
Yeah.
And, I'm okay. I'm good with the bullshit science and stuff, but it was an odd choice in the end.
Yeah.
Interesting side note on that odd science. When his like intro scene where he's going to Chernobyl and bring out the worms. I actually don't know how accurate this is. This is what I've considered fact my whole life, but I've never actually heard from a reliable source. This is how James Cameron got his start, is the same technique he uses. In a movie, they needed some worms to wriggle and move, and he was like one of the like just techie people, and he had the idea of just shove a bunch of electricity into the dirt.
Really?
And
I've always wondered.
It totally worked. And they were like, you have a future in special effects.
He's like, I'd like one submarine, please. I'll see you in 3 years.
But it's like the exact same thing. And I was like, huh.
That's amazing.
I wonder if that was like a intentional callback to that by someone, or if that was just something real worm scientists do.
I loved it how with that scene they were like, it's Chernobyl. Hey, audience, it's radioactive.
Yeah, so much.
Those worms are fucking huge. They look the same size to me when they came out
They're
of
a
the ground.
whole 13% bigger, okay?
Which you
should be able to tell.
with the naked eye, like you should. Anyway, let's go with positives first. What, like, anybody go? What is something you enjoyed about this more than you thought, or like what was good about it? Gwen.
The French guy mysteriously Frenching into the night at the end.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I didn't see him
He's
making
my
out with
favorite
anyone.
part.
Well, I wanted the, like, maybe this is like the fact I went to school for broadcast journalism and did produce broadcast news for 2 years. The part of me was like, oh, I want him to have that footage. But when he was like, yeah, we can't have people know that we were there. I mean, yeah, it was kind of cool. And it's interesting that they wanted him to have a bigger role in the sequel. Because his initial appearances, like the way they wedge him in, kind of sucks. But he ends up being, like, enjoyable. Like,
I like Jean Reno. Like, I think
Yeah.
that he's.
what's your number one
just
genre, recommendation?
I mean, Leon, probably. Leon the Professional. I just think that's a great, that's probably the role that he gets the most, like, because he does, I feel like after that just got shoehorned into kind of like the shadowy secret, which he totally plays in this. But I just think he's just an enjoyable
For some reason,
dude.
playing a Yugoslavian person in like every other movie.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, he gets a lot of Eastern European bullshit too. But yeah, I liked that character was fun, and I feel like I do feel like a thing that this movie does is every character has a very clear gag that they are very happy to show you every time it comes up, like 3 or 4 times. And his feels like the one that worked the best because it wasn't like as goofy as everyone else's, I guess. But like I will say, his Elvis impression when they're getting past the military checkpoint, like, got a genuine laugh out of me because it's so ridiculous and bizarre, and I really like that.
But imagine, like, 12-year-old me watching that and
Sure,
thinking,
yeah.
that's genius.
Had you guys had all seen it? Were they all fond? No, you hadn't.
I had never seen it.
I
And you-
have
Whoa.
only seen the first half, I think. Coincidentally, also a sleepover.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This was, I don't know if I saw it in theaters, but I know I saw this whole thing. And I must have seen it again on like basic cable or something because it's easily been over 10, 15 years. But yeah, it rung as like, now it's just historically thought of as a bad movie, but I had positive memories around it. Have any of you guys seen the new one with Walter White?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
isn't there
I know
one
I've
after
seen
that?
it. I
We
don't
saw it
remember
in
anything
theaters,
about it.
Justin.
It
I
only
don't.
came out like 3 years ago, I
I
think.
don't remember anything about
There's
it.
also one
Wow.
that came out last summer.
Oh,
And is that supposed to be a direct sequel to that one, or is it another
I
reboot?
couldn't
I
tell you
think
at
it
this
was a
point.
reboot.
No, I do think it was connected, but it like they didn't quite.
I thought
keep
it was supposed to be the same
people.
Godzilla, but just different human.
Well, they had another monster that was fighting it. I know that. Man, what a
Yeah.
disaster movies, especially monster movies of this nature, they're tough.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think the best ones, if you're gonna call it a monster movie, are like The Thing. And you sent us that dope animation of The Thing the other day, but it was penguins, and I was just like, there has to be. I don't like being scared. That has to be part of a movie, even like this, when they're being chased or the subtle moments when you don't know when it's gonna pop out. But I think there just has to be some element of subtlety to it. Like these giant monster ones, they've been tough go. But shouts to Pacific Rim.
You're missing the whole subcontext of this movie. Godzilla 1998 is a commentary on toxic masculinity. And
Here we go.
it's very much because you have this, monster who's been mutated into something else and forced against its own nature. Okay?
Because
And-
it's now a female.
No, because
monster?
it was a
Okay.
Komodo dragon or whatever. the fuck,
okay,
and now it's a
uh-huh.
Godzilla that
Right.
breathes fire.
It's a power breath, okay?
Yeah, well, that's actually a reference to the incel metaphors of like Doritos and the Dorito breath.
You're knocking these buzzwords out of the park, dude.
But look, anyway, he can now. It is a male who is a father, okay, but also a mother. It has laid eggs and is now taking the role of the mother, and nobody wants it to. Okay, they all say no, you can't do that because society says you can't. So we're going to shoot our missiles at you, and then
What exactly would you say the missiles are, like, specifically?
YouTube comments.
Okay, good.
And,
I mean, I knew that. I just wanted everyone who's listening to know.
And yeah, I mean, so then he lashes out, and everyone's like, "See how bad this is," you know? When really it's just they're the monster that society has created.
So would you say that this is more of a treatise for us to think better of, I don't know, just pulling off the top of my head, like Logan Paul or someone like that from YouTube? I don't know if that's where I was going.
I think it just means we need to go undergo nuclear therapy if we want men to also have to give birth, and that we would learn from that. All right.
Sold.
Wow. Whoa. Means it. Watch out.
Okay, have any of you given birth? Yeah.
We're going to reverse your vasectomy,
but what if it's
put
like
you through
laying
nuclear
eggs?
therapy.
That should be easier, right?
Speaking of, there were like 30,000 eggs. Did those
Yeah.
fit in that Godzilla?
Well, if you look at the size ratio, that would just be like a small poop on a good day. Like, that's nothing. What hole is he?
Did you think that the size was consistent?
It's a cloaca.
Like
No,
Godzilla
absolutely
to
not.
buildings to things? I thought it was pretty inconsistent. Anyway, I don't have good enough
I
examples.
didn't like paying close enough attention to that.
I do need to tell you guys something about the new movies. So there was the Godzilla and then Godzilla King of the Monsters or something because he fights other monsters. So you remember that Kong Skull Island movie that came out a few years ago?
Yeah, were they
Vaguely.
going to be like...
They're in the same universe, and there's a movie, I think it's actually been filmed,
Oh, wow.
that is delayed due to COVID, that is called Godzilla vs. Kong. That is actually going to
I
come
might
out.
watch it.
I think we're going to have to
That was-
do a podcast about
Was
it.
The Rock in that one? The
No.
Kong Skull Island one?
Oh, I don't think it was...
It
No,
was
Brie Larson
Tom
was in
Hiddleston
it.
and Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
I started watching it
Okay.
and nope.
Did you like the Jack Black one?
The last time I
long.
saw it was like when
Yeah.
But
I was really young,
good.
but thinking back
saw
on
it.
it, there's things I don't like about it.
John Goodman was also in Kong Skull Island. Anyway, we're going to move on to a new segment called Studio Notes, and we're going to just let you know something that we've decided the studio gave them as a note or should have given them as a note. And this can be anywhere in the process from scripting to shooting. And here's the thing. They turned in the first draft of this movie, and it was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and they knew they were going to have to push it back down. And the studio said, let's reduce it by a half hour. And they took it down from 240 to 218. The studio head needed to really go to Roland Emmerich and say, look, I know you're hot off of Independence Day, but this sucker needs to be under 2 hours. And he's like, you know what? Your science and your plot is already so fractured. I don't need the extra 20 minutes of explanation. Let's get rid of it. In fact, let's get rid of every scene with the love interest because you have no idea how journalism works. So every person in a rom-com, one of them's always a journalist and they have no idea how it works, or they're 22 and they're working at Cosmo as the featured writer.
Is that an accurate figure? Every rom-com, one of the love interests is a journalist?
72%. But I'm just saying,
Do you have a source for that?
the studio, like, all you had to do was come to him and just say, chop it down. Maybe you get rid of something that actually makes it a little more cohesive, but it's not even that I was like mad or felt like it really dragged. It's just like nothing needs to be this long unless you're really damn good. You know what deserves to be long? Silence. Titanic. You know what doesn't? Pretty much every other movie, including superhero movies, which I adore. All right, I'm done.
Those are the two. I mean, you're on notice, movies. If you try coming in here with over a 2 hour runtime and you're not Silence or fucking Titanic,
I believe this was made by Columbia and TriStar. Hire me.
There was a whole bunch of
Let me
production
fix that
company
stuff.
names at the beginning of this that I
Oh, yeah.
never seen before or since.
yeah.
It's a mess.
New segment. Mitchell goes off.
That happens every one time in some way or another.
I will say I do appreciate that they gave them the studio note on the moment early in the film when Matthew Broderick is ripped from his research and taken to, the new area. And they're like, well, you're going to be researching something new. And he's like, well, you're going to be researching a new sample. He says, well, where is it? And he's like, you're standing in it. And then in the original cut, Matthew Broderick just looked down and then looked up at the camera incredulously to convey like, holy shit, I'm in a foot. But they knew that was not clear. And so instead they had him say, where is it? I can't see it. And then they panned out even further so the audience could now see it. And then he said, where is it? And
Which
then he
makes
said,
us
oh,
feel smart.
yeah, exactly. And then in the next scene, just in case, just to get any stragglers, he also says, I was standing in a foot. And I was like,
was
I was like, now I understand why this movie's 2 hours and 18 minutes long, because if we're going to be doing this with every piece of information.
They really trust us as an audience.
So
I
much.
felt so trusted.
They did cut out all the breaking of the fourth wall. Originally, this was going to be very Ferris Bueller-esque. And he was going to turn him
Shit, I can't believe they bought it.
What is nuclear energy?
Side note, I really loved how cheesy the speech was about first of his kind, first of his species. Like, figured it out. He's like, oh, the first of his kind.
Very excited.
Okay, pal.
And he kept using those he. Pronouns were not as important back in 1998. But I even noticed in my summary, I know that Godzilla turns out to give birth, and I didn't want to give away the twist. That's really why I didn't do it. But earlier I was like, I wrote masculine pronouns. I'm a piece of shit. Oh, anything else we can criticize?
When did The Lost World come out?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably like,
I want to say 96
or 97.
96.
I got you.
And then the third Jurassic Park would have been early 2000s, right?
Yeah,
I
that
think.
sounds about right.
Like,
Came out in 97, Lost World did. So that's the year before this.
okay, yeah, all right.
Oh,
Well,
you're right.
that
They do it so much
that makes
better.
more sense then, I guess.
This
Yeah,
movie wants to be Jurassic
that's the
Park.
thing. Like, even that just feels like the overarching like studio note in my mind is Jurassic Park. Like any like questions the director had or anything, like the answer is Jurassic Park. Like that just feels like kind of where they're going. Like even the music itself, like you can hear the da 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 da,
Well,
but it's like
The first
it's
time
like drawn
he
out
sees
more.
Godzilla is like that moment when they first see the dinosaur. It's like the exact same shots
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
pacing.
I
The
didn't-
raptors,
Blows my mind because
the
like
raptors are like the babies. In
yeah,
the kitchen
exactly.
and shit.
Yeah, like because Jurassic Park came out in 94,
Yeah,
94. Yeah, so this would have been 4 years, 5 years. Like it just feels like somebody. I mean, yeah, Jurassic Park's a great movie, but like 5 years later, like you're still trying to do this. Like I don't know.
And the
It's
Okay.
science components too, where they were
Yeah.
like, "Let's introduce this interesting." Like, you're right. I didn't draw that as much as it's totally there. Yeah,
Jurassic Park scared the shit out of me as a kid, and I was able to watch Godzilla. So there's that.
Yeah.
Godzilla, the more family-friendly version.
There we go.
I mean, the more the
I was
characters
audience.
treat like dangerous animals as less of a threat, when they're all just in there and they're all hatching and walking around, they're like, "Oh, this is crazy."
We also got the
full of
Death
fish.
Star trench run in there too with the
yeah.
helicopters, which was great. So
Yeah, I do want to talk about that because there's that moment. It's probably yeah, the top 3 moments in this movie, I think, which is just prior to that, where he shoots the top of the Chrysler building off, and it just cuts to like this shot of him, and he's just like, "Oh fuck!" He looks like he just like acts that his parents are coming home early, and he's like just thrown this incredible rager, and he's like.
Broke his mom's favorite vase.
And he kind of like looks around the cockpit for a minute and goes, negative impact.
My favorite part about that is like the general guy and the mayor and his assistant are all watching like these like super 2D displays, and then they're like, they shot up the Chrysler building. How do you know that?
yeah, for sure.
which is in the background in one of the later shots too,
Oh.
still standing,
Which always
with the
confused
top
me
of
as a
it on.
kid.
Did it really? You picked
I
that
wouldn't
up?
notice that.
That's amazing.
I was like, are there 2 buildings like that? I've never been to New York. I don't know.
hey, New York is a workers' town. They rebuild quick.
I will say there have been times where I've confused the Chrysler Building and the Empire State
State
Building.
Building, yeah.
When they shot it off, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they shot the top of the Empire State Building. Then you said Chrysler Building. I was like, oh, they shot off the Chrysler Building.
Nobody's gonna know that. Well, interesting too. The Twin Towers are obviously this 3 years before 9/11, but also they refer to this as the biggest disaster since the Twin Towers
And
bombing.
he like pauses. He's like,
Super.
the World Trade Center bombing. I was like,
Wait,
Well, which did happen in the 90s. Like,
Yeah.
but it's crazy that has been totally obscured in my memory of like,
Yeah.
just my mind is so taken up by 2001 whenever I think of those now. So yeah, that
Which
was
that
weird.
pause becomes like so much more ominous to me as like a
Sure,
viewer outside
yeah.
of it now that I'm like, that's such a strange thing that meant nothing at the time. That to me, that pause now means so like.
I
had me
remember
being like,
learning
what the
about
fuck?
that after and just being like, well, we knew they were coming at. Like, What?
Yeah.
But it's because they had to actually reshoot a bunch of Tobey Maguire's first Spider-Man because there was the Twin Towers in it. They had to digitally remove them, reshoot
I remember
things.
the first trailer for that movie was him like stringing up a web between the two
really?
towers with like a van of criminals inside of it, and I remember that so clearly. And then
Yeah, because I had no semblance of what those buildings were until obviously, like you guys might have been
6th grade.
Sixth grade.
Yeah, I was in 4th grade, so
Yeah, that was one of the things that I mentioned to Gwen when we first started watching this movie was because the destruction kind of like you get right into it. I mean, well, not right into it, because there's a lot of stuff before the destruction. But once Godzilla gets to the city, shit just starts happening. And I told Gwen, I was like, man, even after all this time, like seeing New York get destroyed is like it hurts. Like there's this weird thing about seeing this kind of destruction in this city specifically, and I hadn't ever really put that together in my mind about like Hollywood movies, because like there have been disaster movies that have destroyed New York since
Avengers?
then.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, right. But like I feel like it doesn't happen very often, and it's weird to see something like that.
but also to see
now.
the huge wide shot of the city with the towers there, and then for them to be gone. Like I would say, even for us, that skyline looks fine without those towers. Like it looks normal without those two towers.
for sure.
Well, whenever it's there, we notice. We
Yeah.
see, oh, there are the towers.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
like to see the graph of disaster movies, like in San Francisco pre 9/11 and in San Francisco post 9/11.
That's actually, that's an interesting.
Did that shift happen as starkly as it feels like to me?
Well, those are the only. I mean, is there another city, because LA's so spread out and it doesn't have these iconic high rises? There's no other cities that have these landmarks that we can really pick out. You think about the other biggest cities like Chicago, Dallas, Miami,
Seattle.
Philadelphia. Okay, Seattle has the Needle, so we all know it, but like
How
I
has
know
the needle stayed safe all these years? I've never seen the needle be
I
destroyed
wonder.
in a movie.
I'm gonna look up to see if a disaster movie has ever destroyed the Needle.
Dude, those
I bet you there are at
British
least
people
3.
are probably gonna shoot it down because it's too sweet.
Yeah. Well, London
Too
and
much
Paris,
sugar.
London, Paris, and Tokyo are like the first to go every time. When there's like a post-apocalyptic movie, it's like they got London, then Paris, then New York. Now we're in Iowa. Actually, a lot of people end up in Utah or Colorado are actually places. The Rocky Mountains seem to be havens from post-apocalyptic shit.
Stay out, motherfuckers. It's ours.
Yeah. We don't want you here. Okay. I also wanted to. I have a crackpot theory. So here's a new segment, Crackpot Theories by Mitchell. If they would have tried to nuke Godzilla, like say Godzilla had made it out to like the desert.
Avengers.
Huh? Yeah.
Avengers? Yeah.
What if they, and I wonder, because it was made out of nuclear reactions, if it just would have absorbed it and gotten even stronger or multiplied. And I think that was the missed sequel, where it's like they have to shoot it. That new one grows and they shoot it with a nuke, and then it becomes 5 more, and realize the most powerful weapon humankind has ever designed not only destroys more of us than the enemy, but then wouldn't work.
And it's just Mad
And that's
Max
very
and
astute
Godzilla
right there.
crossover.
I'm here for it.
It just fills up Godzilla's special bar, and then
And
he
there's
gets to
like
use
a
his
group of
ultimate
like
move.
desert crazy people who worship Godzilla as part of like their religion.
Mad Max Godzilla.
I still got my
Cut that out of
studio
the
note,
podcast.
man.
We
Yeah,
don't
give
let
me
anyone
your-
know that
give
idea.
me
My
your
studio
studio
note is that someone was really upset with the 4-1 beatdown the Pacers put on the Knicks when they were
I'm so glad we're coming back to this. This makes me so
they
happy.
were putting in the 1997-98 season I have here, where they did have a record of 43 and 39, but they only did win 1 game in the playoffs against the Pacers. Reggie Miller kicked their ass.
This is Patrick Ewing days, right? This is
It's
quite
towards
a
the end of Patrick
heyday.
Ewing,
Yeah,
I
towards
think,
the
right?
end.
It's
Yeah.
quite a heyday for you guys.
And
I think
man,
at least you guys watched the last.
They
Stand.
blew up the
Yeah.
Garden like more than fucking Jordan did, man. Like,
Who caused more destruction in MSG? Michael Jordan or Godzilla?
I mean, it's
Coming up
it's
next.
technically the second time this month I've seen that place destroyed. So on TV.
That's so. I had to explain to Gwen, like, kind of like why seeing the garden get destroyed in this movie was like important to me, like what it meant from like a basketball fan's perspective and everything.
I wouldn't be surprised if Spike Lee had like a hand in that, just being so frustrated, or Stephen A. Like,
Well, that's the remake. Like Spike Lee is going to be in charge of that and
They should have Spike Lee's
Dolan will
chair
be,
just
like-
still intact.
reference somehow. And yeah,
how are they so bad? They have so much
Mike
fucking
Dolan
money.
is Godzilla. It's all been a giant metaphor.
this is prophecy.
I just say, I wonder if they were trying to make it almost a comedy, or at least these lighter aspects to not make it a horror disaster movie. Because if you think about it, not only is Matthew Broderick a little bit of a fool, and Hank Azaria, like, shouts
adorable.
to that dude, but it's, yeah, I have a lot of love for Hank. He just finished up a show that was super good. But the mayor's an idiot. The military, like, this is a bad look for the U.S. military, Roland Emmerich. Like, what are you doing? You can F with journalism like every other screenwriter, but I feel so bad.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think it was just swinging the needle back from all the praise he gave them in Independence Day.
That's true. That is
the
a
president's
glorification.
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
He can basically motivate everyone with 3 words. We fucking kicked their asses.
That's a great speech. Let's be
Well,
honest.
like as incompetent as they were, we did get that like oorah moment at the end with the blonde like sidekick guy, and the general's like, "You did a good job, soldier." And we were
Yeah,
supposed to feel
that's
like all
true.
heart.
That guy would have
it.
never
work on
been
me.
promoted to that position to begin with.
There's so,
He wouldn't have made
Nepotism.
he make it out of boot camp, but that's about it.
there were seriously like 3 higher up people who like seemed like they were confident in their own ability, and every other person was like a bumbling idiot. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many things in this movie too where, like, when he throws the thing out of the cab to the military guy, how?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, every cab keeps a record on the radio channels or the names. Let's just go look it up in his log where I know exactly where it is.
One of the deleted scenes is the blonde guy grew up in New York, so obviously he didn't know that.
Okay, maybe this is in the deleted scenes too. Matthew Broderick answers a fucking cell phone at the end of this movie that apparently only the Frenchman had the number to. Did he plant that on him before he left?
Yes, because he was supposed to call for help in the gardens. He handed
Oh,
him the cell
okay,
phone,
okay.
and then he went to use the payphone
And he
for
thinks,
some reason.
and he thinks a line being busy is going to be solved by calling from a payphone instead. But then also, like, at the beginning, they're like, oh, hey, we brought this radioactive expert because he studies how radiation affects things. Just in case. And then he reveals something. He's like, hey, radiation might have changed the lizard to be Godzilla. And they're like, fuck you and your crackpot theories.
And so he's like, okay, well, instead, let's track it because I know a lot about animals too. Like, I feel like most of the information that the radiation doctor, like the quote unquote worm guy, as everyone calls him throughout the movie, is like, if we can find them in their natural habitat, what do they want? It's like, who the fuck are you? Tell us about gamma rays or something.
The moment when I turned to Justin and said, "Wow, this is really bad," was when he gets like fired, and he's walking out of the tent and he talks to the redheaded chick. He's like, "Make sure Hicks finds the nest before it's too late." Wow, that was a delivery, man.
I liked your description, discount Kathy Griffiths for that character, because like I have not thought of her in a long time, and this time frame like that, yeah, that's totally who she was.
And that
cast
lady's been
as.
in other stuff, and I should look her up and give her some credit. I almost feel bad, but we're never going to meet. It's okay. But that's exactly what it came off to me as.
Yeah,
The main female lead, I don't remember her name in this movie.
Audrey.
Audrey, gosh, I hate this woman. She at first she kind of reminded me of like a more watered down Lucy from Twin Peaks.
Sure.
Oh.
Same kind of energy, like, but it's like if Lucy just moved to New York, but still acted like she was in Twin Peaks because she's like, I'm gonna get a job on the big paper by being an assistant for all this, and it's just like, oh no.
I want you to have dinner with me tonight,
Too
but
sweet.
you're married.
Her entire strategy was to like bite her lip and look down and
Yeah.
I'm contemplating.
And have very New York friends.
Yes.
Like, yeah, it's the most stereotypical.
Her career goes pretty badly after this. I almost feel bad. She's in like, she's in one show for a few seasons, and then like a Hallmark Christmas movie, and then she pops up in 2008 after 4 years of doing nothing and has not acted since. So
Who knows? Maybe she's done a lot of theater stuff. Honestly, the energy that she has in her acting is much better suited. I could totally see her
Wikipedia
in like
didn't mention
a Neil
it, but
Simon play or
maybe.
something.
You know what? Maybe she changed careers and now she's the worm gal. You never know.
worm woman,
Worm-
woman, not gal.
I want to talk about Roland Emmerich because for some reason his name pops up in my mind as a Hollywood director. He has a type when it comes to movies.
Oh, yeah,
Here's
look
one. Hollywood. He directed a few before this, but I'll point out some ones that either fit or you might know. Hollywood Monster, Moon 44, Universal Soldier, Stargate, Independence Day, Godzilla, The Patriot, The Day After Tomorrow,
Yes.
10,000 BC, 2012,
Yes.
White House Down, Stonewall, Independence Day Resurgence, Midway, and he has one coming up called Moonfall,
He did Resurgence, Independence Day Resurgence too.
which is
Oh shit, is Moonfall with Halle Berry? where she's trying to keep the moon from crashing into the Earth?
I'll check. Oh, it
Are we
doesn't have
getting
a
like
link.
Seven Eves, or is it something different?
What?
Seven Eves? No.
What's Seven Eves?
Okay, never
Neil
mind.
Stevenson
Yes.
book, is that what you're talking- Yeah, I don't know.
But
haven't
my
heard- yeah, I
dude
didn't-
likes
That's another one of your books.
end of world
Glenn.
movies, monster movies,
well.
disaster
Yeah.
movies, and I know there's lots of issues with Independence Day. I have a very fond memory of it. I know where there's a mess, but like I think it's much better than this.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder if this rushed into production or something. He's a writer on pretty much everything he directs, which is pretty interesting. And I like a couple of these in a hokey way. Like I like The Day After Tomorrow. I don't think 2012 was good, but
Stargate's
Well, it's
pretty
so fun to
fucking
watch.
good.
Stargate is. And my parents were big fans of the TV show, so that is a very, and I think they're going to reboot it in a very peak TV way, which I'm excited for. But I mean, it was really well done. I think it's now like seen as that syndicated cable show, but the initial movie. So clearly the dude has like some talent because some of that like is beautiful filmmaking or interesting. Midway was a good, solid historical history
Well,
movie.
I'll even say as much as we've talked about this movie, it doesn't look bad. Like they're
No,
like,
no,
the-
no.
In general, like it's not like ridiculous. I mean, a lot of the CG is what looks just fucking
Did not
rough.
look up.
They lean into the ridiculousness, so maybe we should. I don't think he cares that some of the science or some of the plot doesn't quite work out. So maybe there's like nothing negative because the overall, like, I like how they subtly start to tease Godzilla. You see little pieces of him before that big reveal shot, like classic, but really well done. The destruction looks real. It feels real. The tension is created. So I'm not saying it's a bad movie. But I'm saying there's a lot of issues with it, which, but you see that in his movies. It's very up and down and very like 2012, which came out in 2012. I had it
It
in
was
front
like
of me.
2009.
Oh, okay. A few years before, like
It was
has some
2009.
really
Oh,
bad.
God.
It has some really bad CGI too. And I'm like, why? I just want to know why. I got to complain about Independence Day Resurgence for one moment.
I forgot about that. Holy shit.
So Bill Pullman's daughter in the first one is like a little girl, and she's like an adult or an 18-year-old, and they cast this really hot actress, like just some, no offense, more model type. But the girl who actually played that little girl is Mae Whitman, who is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And so I am so mad that they recast it.
I didn't know that was. I didn't
Wait,
realize
I
that
know
was
that
Mae
name.
Whitman.
Yeah.
Why do I know her name?
She's in Scott Pilgrim. She's in Parenthood. She's got a show on right now with Donna from Parks and Rec
Arrested
called Good
Development.
Girls. Oh, Arrested Development. She's the girlfriend of the banana stand kid.
The
She's the has-been.
Yeah,
She's
the
the one who
has-been.
says,
Yeah.
"You has-been."
You punch me in
She's
the
the
boob.
girlfriend.
Very classic. Like you have a great actress
Yeah.
and you don't cast her in the sequel movie. How cool
She's
is
really
that?
good.
To have someone 10 years later be like, oh, that kid actually grew up to be a good famous actor. Do you need a picture?
Yeah, hold on. We need to resolve this. 'cause
super-
I feel like
The super Christian girl in Arrested Development.
oh, Anne?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Anne.
her?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I fell right into that one. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Cool. Anyway,
Oh my God.
I was because you said Arrested Development, so then I thought the punch me in the boob line was from Arrested Development. I was trying to think of like, and then that happened at the banana stand. I'm like, did I forget a whole section of that show? Oh,
That's it. We're watching Arrested Development from now on. Okay. Just the first 3 seasons. I'm not gonna dive into that. Okay. Anyways, what were we talking about?
I'm
Bill
done.
Pullman. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about Roland Emmerich a little bit because it's curious to me how this
Yeah.
fits in, and I wonder where he peaked. But he's making interesting stuff. Like I generally enjoy watching it. When we have a lot of movies that might not come to theaters from now on, I think it's pretty cool. Like I'm glad he makes movies that I'm probably gonna like know they're shitty and want to see in theaters.
Sure.
Yeah. What else you guys got on the Zilla? What are our notes?
Well, he, I think in like 2010, finally admitted that he screwed up Godzilla. Like, for Godzilla fans hated this movie
Yeah.
and disowned it and just shit on it all the time. Like, the international audience who never saw the old Godzilla really loved it, but people who liked the old Godzilla hated this one. And I guess he finally admitted it in an
how was
interview.
Japan's reception? Do
Oh,
you-
they hated it. It
Yeah, I
was,
assume.
yeah. No, they say it is not Godzilla. It is a Godzilla-like monster.
Well, I'm wondering, do any Godzilla fans who consider themselves Godzilla fans, who I've never met anyone like this, but do they? What's the last one they liked? Like,
1954.
No, honestly, there's a really good Godzilla movie made. I believe it was 2014. It might be even sooner, 2017. A Japanese movie called Shin Godzilla.
is that
and
the
it's more
animated
of,
one?
No. It's live action, but it's kind of an update of the original Godzilla, and it is very much like I think when you think of like when I think of the original Godzilla, what I think of is a monster movie that is a metaphor for something much larger and about kind of bureaucratic failure and like stuff like that. And that's what Shin Godzilla is. Shin Godzilla, you see the monster a lot less. A lot more of it takes place in rooms, and you have people from different political affiliations arguing and special interest groups. And it is this more like kind of direct commentary on society, I think. And it's funny because I think that's like a great thing about Godzilla, but you also have Godzilla fans who love like the later Godzilla stuff where it's like Godzilla's friends with a little boy now, and he becomes like this superhero that's protecting them from Mothra.
He had like a watch, and like he lived in the bottom of the ocean. He's like, I'm just gonna wait for you to call me, okay? And so then he like presses the button. And Godzilla, come save us! Yeah, I saw that.
The
cartoon.
Mothra one was always my favorite.
Yeah,
as a kid.
Mothra one's great. Yeah, it's funny. I do wonder. I want to know like kind of what the Venn diagram of Godzilla fans looks like. If there's people who are like, man, the first 3 Godzilla movies are fucking awesome, and then he got to be friends with a kid and he was so fucking lame. And then he turned into a robot and went to the moon and fought King Kong and Hitler, and I don't know, it was fine. But
Okay, but that's Mecha Godzilla, and that's completely
right,
different.
it's totally different. Excuse me, yeah, I see. I'm already treading.
Get your
I
facts
don't know the
straight.
ground. I do not know the layout of this minefield that I'm stepping on.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the only version of Godzilla who actually breathes fire, as opposed to having like the ion cannon out of his mouth, right?
So they like were originally just going to have him have power breath in this movie, and then I guess fans got wind of it and got pissed off, and so they like sort of incorporated the fire into it.
Yeah, it was like one shot.
Yeah, I thought it was more like there was like gasoline or something in the air, and like he's screaming, and it just causes an explosion. Not
That's
so
the
much
other
that it
thing.
was that
Common
Godzilla is breathing fire or something.
That's the
like
other
that.
thing that Truman and I would argue about forever after watching that movie. As
God,
like,
I wish
8 and 11-year-olds.
I could hear these. I want to hear those discussions.
No, he
so
did
badly.
breathe fire. No, he didn't.
just the car.
So in the years after this too, there's a great filmography for Godzilla. In Japan, they were like full going at it. Godzilla against Mecha Godzilla, Final Wars, Space Godzilla versus Godzilla. Like, Godzilla versus Destroy Ya, spelled YAH at the end. Like, that's fun, and it does suck that Hollywood like screwed up something that is super interesting. But obviously, the way we feel about it, like American audiences are just going to react completely differently to specifically that movie. But Sony should have never sold it to it. No, it should have never produced a movie for Americans.
Well, I remember when that one with Bryan Cranston came out. There, like all the Japan fans were like, "You made him too fat." Like, they were so mad about how fat Godzilla was.
And he's
That was mostly the fan art community that worked on Godzilla.
and that was
Have
directed
a
by
big
Gareth
enough penis.
Edwards.
Yeah,
Disappointing.
yeah.
So, are you more interested in Godzilla, Gwen? Will you be looking more into the Godzilla world, or is
You go
this
to
just
the
like this is gonna be a
public
gem of your
library and
memory?
Rent some Godzilla films.
I might get the old VHSs out, but you guys know me. I have a hard time watching movies.
Yeah, is there a book that she could read about Godzilla?
Please.
Just doesn't have the same zhuzh. You gotta have some chutzpah. I really hated that. Okay.
Yeah, we don't even have a VCR player, man. We're not going to be able to watch any old VHS.
I'll find
movies.
one. I'll find one of those little tiny TVs with a VCR stuck on the bottom.
That's probably
My
the
mom's
only, that's
got
like
one.
the. Oh yeah,
I
that's
watched
right.
Singing in the Rain on that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I forgot about
we used to take those on road trips.
It's amazing.
I did. I went home last week, and my mom's like, "You should take some of your crap with you." I'm like, "I don't really have a place to put it," so I just kind of ignored her. But she was like, "Do you want to keep those VHS tapes?" And like, this is gonna sound terrible, but yes, I do. And she's like, "Well, I have a VCR." And I'm like, "Well, I might need to steal it from you sometime." But I like have no intention to watch those for 10 years, but I will. Damn it!
Yeah. I mean, soon, we'll just come back around. The cycle of media will continue, and eventually in 20 years, it will be cool to watch, a new action movie on VHS again or something. I don't know. It'll be fucking cool.
I tell you what, the next time we go into actual lockdown and we go into like red level or whatever, I commit to watching 2 of the old Godzilla movies, and I will
Nice.
return.
Or maybe you should watch the Shin Godzilla one. You should watch a Japanese one.
Shin Godzilla's great. I have it if anyone wants to borrow it.
Apparently, Netflix has produced some cartoons the last 3 years as well.
Which I started watching actually after watching Godzilla, and I started it and immediately thought I had somehow clicked on the wrong thing because I was like, "Oh, this man's being arrested in a spaceship. What the? Oh, okay. All of humanity is on a spaceship because Earth is now just Godzilla's." That's the entire premise, and it's like this guy basically vowing to be like, "I'm gonna fucking take back Earth from those fucking Godzillas," and I was like, "I'm in."
There's like a whole race of them now. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's not just one Godzilla making the planet its bitch.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
It's Planet of Godzillas.
So the babies got out and ate everyone.
Dawn of the Planet of the Godzillas.
I mean, I've watched 10 minutes of it. I don't know a lot.
Dude,
But-
it's just gonna be Planet of the Apes, like Mitchell says. They're gonna have like sophisticated society going on down there.
Caesar,
And,
but
I mean, yeah, humans become the primitive monsters. And there's a Godzilla in
And they're
a
all
lab
really
coat.
small now. And so when he comes back, he's this giant human.
He gets Gulliver's traveled by a bunch of Godzillas.
I would watch that movie. Maybe.
oh,
If we're in
Godzilla.
lockdown.
If we're in lockdown.
If we ever face a terrible pandemic again.
I'll write it down in book format for you.
Oh, thank you.
I'll novelize everything. I think my brother was reading the novelization of some movie that I'm like, why did they even... Why did they... But some authors make a bunch of money doing that.
I
Get
owned
money.
so many novelizations. I owned the novelizations of all the prequel Star Wars.
I read the
movies.
Clone Wars
like
one, yeah,
Terry
yeah.
Goodkind did one.
the
R.A.
Clone-
Salvatore did Attack of the Clones, who I loved. Like, I read a shit ton of novelizations when I was younger. Not proud of it, but
My
did.
brother had the soundtrack to Shaft, and I was just like, there's nothing ancillary you need with Shaft, okay? Cool. Do you guys have any final Godzilla thoughts before we take a quick break and do some Rex?
I love it.
I love how much you love it. This has been the most lit Gwen we've got.
Do we want to tease next week?
Yeah.
It's all.
It's your guilty
balls
pleasure.
to
We're going to
report,
tease
my
it.
friend.
Let me tease the tease. We're going to
Okay.
tease it after
Okay.
this
Sounds good.
break. But in the meantime, Tyler, how can people find us on
you
the
can
webs?
email us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at rewatcherspod.
Do you think she forgave him, or he forgave her a little bit too quick after she gave his private
we didn't even
military
talk
tape to
about
the
that.
news?
Absolutely.
Oh, like give more time to the romance. Another studio note.
I mean, I'm the type who, I mean, he's obsessed with her. Obviously, I'm like, man, you should just call it quits as soon as she showed up back in your life. She's like, fuck you. It sounded like she left him at the altar, kind
but
of
he seemed
deal.
pretty obsessed. I don't
And
know.
but then after she uses you
Yeah,
again,
keeping the photos was a little much.
So
when
we-
it's her or worms,
We can all agree that Matthew Broderick's a total simp, right?
I just heard. Okay,
he's drinking her bathwater.
I've been waiting so long to say that word out loud. This is the first time I've ever said it.
And you said it was
That has
Matthew
kind of
Broderick.
become a thing with quarantine.
It has,
That's not something I ever would have thought of with Matthew Broderick, actually. Those adjective to describe Matthew Broderick of all people.
what? I don't
Fucking
understand
simp.
the same thing. I've just started seeing this. I've
We'll talk
seen
about
but I
it
don't-
later.
Okay.
Ask your mom.
Ma, I'll call her right now. We'll keep it on the pod. All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Rewatchers on the Pod recommendations section. We're gonna tell you what to watch. Tyler Harris.
All right. So I have a couple things this week. We've already talked about Dave, but I finished it. The first season's complete. It's fucking incredible. Very good. Definitely recommend it. I also started Solar Opposites on Hulu, which is Justin Roiland, co-creator of Rick and Morty, his new animated show. And I'm enjoying it, actually. I haven't loved the latest episodes of Rick and Morty, but this show is much less. It's more kind of a straight up sitcom that's about aliens on Earth, and it's kind of fun. I definitely, if you're looking for something with like sort of Rick and Morty vibes, it's a pretty
With
good
Dan
show.
Harmon not being involved, does it feel different that way?
Yeah, it does, and it's not. That's not always bad. I think that some of the things in the most recent season of Rick and Morty have leaned very hard into the Dan Harmon neuroses side of things, and just crammed so much into every episode that it's a little muddy for me. So it's kind of refreshing to get just Justin Roiland's stuttery voiceover and then some other voices in there. So, but yeah, it's been pretty decent. I guess the big recommendation I have this week was last night was a wrestling pay-per-view that we watched for AEW, their Double or Nothing, and it was a one of the audience lists. I mean, obviously no audience wrestling shows, which has been a mixed bag certainly over the last couple weeks. But this pay-per-view I actually really loved, and I don't know. I think all the storylines that they're doing, all the wrestlers that they're pushing, and the shows that they're putting together, especially during this time where they're like in uncharted territory as far as doing wrestling shows with no audience, are just so refreshing and fun, and they're embracing just kind of ridiculousness and embracing the idea that like they can do these pre-taped matches and edit just some wild shit into them, and put together these insane matches that I really love. So if you're interested at all in wrestling, this last AEW pay-per-view I think was really great. And Justin and Gwen watched it, and you guys haven't really watched anything between the last pay-per-view and this, right?
Right.
And I'm sure you didn't feel lost. I mean, it's hard to feel lost.
The only people who only go to
wrestling
church on Easter and Christmas, they only watch the pay-per-views
Yes, yeah.
when they know there's a party at the Harris house.
But yeah, I feel like you guys enjoyed it too. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was
Cool.
a really good time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mike
I
Tyson's there, so that's great.
Our kids stayed with my parents last night so that we could come over and watch last night without having to worry about babysitter or whatever. And when I picked up our kids this morning, like I actually talked to my dad about wrestling and told him like how awesome it was and how much fun it was, because like that was something that we did when I was younger. Right. I have these memories of just like hanging out in a room with my grandpa, my dad, my brother, and we watched like WCW wrestling and stuff, and like I loved that shit so much when I was a younger kid. And like I haven't watched it since then, like ever. I haven't watched any wrestling since then. But like after the pay-per-view last night, I was like, Dad, we watched wrestling last night, and it was so much fun. And so like I talked to my dad about it this morning for a little bit, and like that's how much of an impact this pay-per-view event had on me. So yeah, I don't think like
talk to his dad again.
They reconciled. Yeah. But seriously, watching it as a group is so much fun.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah. It's a blast, and it's one of those things. It's funny because my dad has watched both these pay-per-views with us, which my dad's into all kinds of shit. He'll just do whatever, but it is funny because like me and my brother and my dad just talk about wrestling constantly throughout the week now that we're all watching, and yeah, it's a blast, and it's one of those things. Definitely, I love introducing new people to wrestling, and Gwen's brother came over too and caught some pretty insane matches at the end. I was very glad that he was exposed to that kind of wrestling.
The first match he shows up, like the first match, you just get some guy getting his pants ripped off, his butt, his ass is hanging out for like half of the match, and then we get like a close-up shot of his crotch with some other dude's face like right on his junk. Like,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Well, Truman said today he was still smiling about it, so it can't have been that traumatizing.
Yeah.
Welcome to wrestling.
But yeah, those are my recommendations for the week for sure. So.
What gems, Justin? What do you got?
Just one quick mention. I started finally. I got my install of Apex Legends working this past week on PC, and I haven't played it since it launched. I played for like a month maybe after it launched, whenever that was. I can't even remember when it came out. But my install, I don't know what happened to my account, or something was wrong with my drivers on my PC or something, but I couldn't play it, and I just kind of gave up. And the newest season started recently, and they introduced a new character, and she looked like she was a lot of fun to play. I was like, man, I'm going to try and get this working again on my PC. And I was able to get my install working. I started playing again this week, and I'm not a big Fortnite person. I've never played Fortnite really at all much. I mentioned Call of Duty Warzone recently, which is fun to play in a group, I think. But Apex is like the one battle royale where I can actually play by myself and still enjoy myself. So if you like fast-paced kind of FPS battle royale shooter, it's much quicker than Call of Duty. I don't. It's not anything like Fortnite. If you've played Titanfall at all, it is a Titanfall game. Apex has been around for a while, so most people probably who are interested in that kind of thing already know about it. But it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it. Been playing with my brother a little bit recently, and I think Tyler and I probably play sometime soon. Yeah. Eventually, if we can.
I just updated today, so let's do it.
Cool.
I downloaded it before I left. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and they've got a lot of really cool characters now that have some unique abilities, and it's a good time. Check it out.
Cool. Sweet, Gwen.
Well, I told you guys about this already, but I tried really hard to watch The Great this week, and
Oh yeah.
when I clicked on the icon on Hulu, it started casual instead, and I was just too tired to change. So,
That's a deep tired. Like I know exactly that tired. I've tasted it before. Yeah.
so I just watched the first episode of Casual, and I got to the end, and there was a naked dude in the kitchen. I was like, that was funny, and I haven't gone back to it.
The first episode, you say?
Yes, the first episode, right at the end. I'll find you. I will find you the marker.
Yeah, I love that.
It's on this website called Mr. Skip. Did you get to The Great?
Now there's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Too tired to go back and try again.
I binged it. I wish it was a couple episodes shorter. Very fun tone. It's the writer of The Favorite, Tony McNamara. So you don't get the visual style or the natural lighting of The Favorite, which honestly weren't my favorite things, but you get a lot of the biting, and it's absurdist.
Biting?
It's the biting, like the biting dialogue, I should say. And Nicholas Hoult, let's just say the dude does best when he's weird. Mad Max Fury Road, that movie where he's a zombie.
I like him.
Oh, that's where I know
He's
him.
pretty good.
Anyway,
He's just goofy and weird.
It really kicks into gear with some of the more like you're invested in kind of her wanting to like not deal with all the Russian bullshit. But it does really kick in later. But you'll kind of know if you're there with the tone after 2 episodes.
I'll try again.
So
this
yeah,
week.
if
I commit to trying again.
Hulu
this
just
week.
did an update, so I wonder if that. I didn't have any issues with that, but I've never had that happen on Hulu. But they did just do a new layout, so I wonder if that's part of it.
This is the app on our TV.
Is it Roku or
no? It's just the built-in app through Samsung.
Well, I couldn't even
think.
get it to load on that. I had to install Hulu on my phone.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
Weird.
the Samsung app is
Yeah.
is fucked up or something. I don't know.
I feel like those are such a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's annoying.
But it wouldn't work on the Samsung TV, and then I installed it on my phone and cast it to the TV, and that's when it played
Weird.
the wrong show.
Freaking streaming. I have like a Fire Stick. I have a Roku TV. I have you can Google Cast anything. There's something wrong with all of them.
Yeah. I love that. Maybe that's just Hulu's new thing is like, listen, we don't have ads, but you do have to watch an episode of this other show, and then we'll let you get to what you want.
Did you have any other recommendations for us, Gwen?
Oh, I finished Pillars of the Earth, and it was really good. There was a climactic moment where 1 or 2 characters kind of have a triumph, and then after that, the last like 3.5 hours of the book kind of rushed through the rest of the conclusions. But I mean, it was satisfying, and I'm excited for the next one. So yeah.
Something coming to a satisfying conclusion is we take it for granted sometimes.
Yes.
Philosophical Midge. Well, your reaction to my
I don't know why.
it's the most like Captain Obvious thing, but I was just like I'm so frustrated with some endings lately. I don't know.
I just have missed you so goddamn much.
It has been very so fun to be in presence of humans. Tyler McKinley, what do you recommend?
I found a new band that might not be new to a lot of people. They're called Sorry. And if you like weird shit, but like not too far out there, like think like Of Montreal meets, I don't know, something a little more poppy. Like take something really like mainstream pop, Of Montreal, meet
Like
in the
Taylor
middle.
Swift.
Yeah, sure.
And Of Montreal.
Sure,
Okay,
why
yeah,
not? That's the worst comparison. But yeah, we'll just go with it. Right in the middle there. Yeah, it's a good time. They got like a good varied sound, pretty dynamic album that they released, and it's interesting. And then, just like everyone else in the world, I finished the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, and I really enjoyed it. I honestly don't know if you don't, like, if you're just like a documentary fan, not a sports fan, how much you'd be into it. But I think if you're a sports fan, especially a basketball fan, you definitely are. It's very interesting. But I think kind of a side, even my main more recommendation on it is just assume anyone you've ever thought anything good about that's famous is just an asshole. Mm-hmm. Like, watching this documentary, I was like, oh, the entire NBA is just made up of fucking assholes. At least it was in the 90s. Like, no one, like, they try and present some people as like good people, like
Steve Kerr,
like really, really clean people. But like, by the end, you kind of realize, oh, they're trying to like pull some wool over my eyes. You're like, they try to make you feel bad for Scottie Pippen, but man, I mean, I'm gonna get beat up by people coming to my house if they ever hear this. But Scottie Pippen was a little bitch, you know, like.
He was really underpaid, okay?
But he's making how much money a year? He's making like still like $5 million a year, and if like, and then that whole game where he sat out at the end, that's a bitch move. Granted, he does have like one of my favorite all-time basketball moments, that dunk over Patrick Ewing, and then him, and then trash talking Spike Lee is one of the greatest moments in basketball ever. So I think you almost redeemed yourself, Scotty. So don't kill me. Or send any of your friends that are like 7 feet to kill me.
I mean, I think you're like pretty far down on his list. Like Michael Jordan's even above you on that list, I think, according to how he reacted to the documentary, I guess.
Oh man, but holy shit, did Tony Kukoc get screwed over in this documentary?
Oh,
sure. Like the best comment I ever saw was Carmen Electra got more screen time than Tony Kukoc did in this documentary. Oh man.
I think it's going to bring Jerry Krause into the lexicon, like anytime there's someone who is going to screw something up or just is like an annoying a-hole that the people around him don't like.
Dude, one of the best moments of that documentary is when Craig Sager asks him just straight up at the beginning of like a press conference. First question, he's like, so what's going on with all this backstabbing between you?
It's like, and it's in the intro. There is no backstabbing.
And then he just walks out. And you just hear another reporter go, way to go, Craig.
I definitely agree with you that it's a little less for everyone than 30 for 30. And it'd be interesting. They have a Lance Armstrong doc coming up. I think it starts tonight or next Sunday. They're doing a 2-part 30 for 30 on Lance Armstrong, and he's involved, and it's supposed to be all about, like, they're not going to shy away from things. So I'm very curious how that goes, because Icarus literally won an Oscar talking about how steroids affect sports. So I really am curious how this is going to go about. Cool. Well, I'll go. I've been spending this whole time trying to decide what we should watch next week. Neither one is on, like, Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, like the main 3 streaming services. They're both on Starz or DirecTV or, Starz, Amazon by extension. So we'll discuss that in just a minute. I'll give some quick recommendations. First one, I watched The Lovebirds with Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani. I had extremely low expectations going in. It's funny. It's got a lot of issues, but there are laugh-out-loud funny moments. They're both really talented. I had seen her in a romantic non-comedy this year, and then Kumail, of course, is just so good in Silicon Valley and The Big Sick. So it's on Netflix. It's only 90 minutes. I would actually say that, like, if you want an easy cruise, watch it.
That's Michael Showalter, also, right? The director of Big Sick, and obviously, like,
I think I just saw the trailer and was not.
Sure, yeah.
But and some of the ridiculousness is there, but like it just is funny.
Cool.
And I didn't know if they'd work together, but it's funny.
Yeah.
I rewatched Top Gun this week. It kind of holds up in a really fun way. It's so ridiculously 80s. I started watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm only 2 episodes in. I'm already more into it than Clone Wars, so I'll let you guys know where I land on it as far as my cartoons go.
Have you ever watched it before?
No.
Okay.
So I'm stoked.
This is my favorite animated series ever. Yeah.
I have such a love
I need to sit down and try it, because every clip I've seen of it, I'm like, this doesn't look like my kind of party.
Season 2 is better than season 1.
My best friend just kind of said, look, it is technically for kids. You're going to have to, there's undertones, there's way more interesting depth and story, but he's like, there are going to be times when you're like, shit, I'm watching a Saturday morning cartoon.
It's like early Harry Potter. It's definitely for kids.
But I'm already like pretty enjoying it, and I want to hate watch the M. Night Shyamalan movie. I want to just hate it.
I will say along those lines, like, there are lots of shows made for kids right now, like, especially animated shows that are pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So like, don't let that stop you.
But,
Like,
I mean,
well,
like,
I'm not
the
scared
Clone
of
Wars is
animation,
burning
I
me
just-
pretty hard.
that's
though,
totally
like,
different. I feel like that's
Yeah.
a totally different thing. Like, but there's, I mean, between like Avatar stuff like Gravity Falls, which
That's
I
the one I
really
think of.
love,
Yeah, yeah.
and even like Steven Universe, that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fucking good shit. In there
Oh,
for
I
everyone.
started Over the Garden Wall. And I still haven't finished it yet.
Oh,
Love Over the Garden.
Granted, I've only seen 2 episodes.
I actually re-listened. We did a podcast on Over the Garden Wall, and I listened to the whole thing because I was just like, oh, like I forgot the feeling, the good feeling in that we watched it in the fall,
Yeah.
like purposely, the good feeling it gave me.
Over the
about
Garden
that.
Wall is like the equivalent of like a glass of hot wassail to me. Like, whenever I think about it, I just feel warm inside and just want to curl
So maybe
up.
I should wait until fall.
It's a great.
I'd watch it
in the
around
fall.
Halloween
Yeah.
or Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very good.
My real recommendation is called. It's a movie. Frick. It's a book, and I think it came out like 4 years ago. I had heard of it vaguely. It's called The Caped Crusade: The Rise of Batman and Nerd Culture. And this guy tells the history of Batman, but in a super interesting way. And you really get to see the reaction, the rise and fall of sales. It is just cool to see. I'm not even a big Batman fan. Like, I like him. I watch the animated series and like the Nolan movies, and I really like the Joel Schumacher movies, which apparently I'm in big trouble for. I was a kid. But he really goes through it, and he also, we were talking before the podcast, it really hits on the toxicity of nerd culture and how much, like, people say this about Star Wars I wouldn't say most recently, I'd say since Phantom Menace came out, how much there is this love for this thing that causes hate for this thing. And Tyler, you were talking before this about having to leave like some message boards on wrestling or whatever because it's so much negativity. And that's like, Batman fans have been some of the worst. And it also explained how Batman went through, because my barrier to entry with comic books has always been that like there is too much history, too much past, too much bizarre shit, and they talk about how they clean it and all the bizarre things happen. So to follow one character through that, and he's the second oldest big time character really, him coming after Superman, really interesting. And then they do talk about the modern movies and some of the hate and everything. And this dropped right before Batman v Superman, so you don't get any insight into the Rob Pattinson movie coming up or the Snyder Cut, which we're going to get on HBO Max. And I automatically get, because I have HBO now, I'm medium not excited. Anyway, but the nerd culture thing really starts to come out, I'd say, around the 80s and 90s, and the advent of Comic-Con, when it was really for comics and the internet. So like, I just know you guys are passionate about some nerd things, whether they be video games, music, anything. So to see one specimen so thoroughly examined was really interesting. And I listened at double time, so I'm lame, but it's only a 9-hour audiobook. So that's how I measure a book length now. But yeah, I can't recommend it enough. And I want to find similar things that like explore a certain subject. I just got a book called Live on Saturday Night. It's a oral history of SNL, and I've read that guy's book on ESPN, and he also has one on CAA, which is a little more in the industry. It's an agency, but I'm really stoked. I think those insider things are super interesting. So, great book. And I think I can share it from Audible. So if you do want to listen to it. On to the next week, final week of Guilty Pleasures, as far as I know, unless we're gonna have a guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
We have it narrowed down to 2, and this is from a list of like 12 for me, guys. And everyone has helped me narrow it down, and I tried to get whichever one was easier to stream. Both of them are only on Stars. One's on DirecTV as well, but I don't think any of us have cable because we're under 50. Just kidding. When I had Google Fiber, I actually had cable, and I had no regrets. So it's between Fever Pitch and Step Up 3D. Here's some pros for Fever Pitch. I want to talk about sports obsession, and it also, maybe this is a bad thing, it is interesting to look at what divides a relationship. And I think we get into that anyway, but I think it's interesting. I don't want you guys to shit on Jimmy Fallon, and that is a concern of mine because I like him.
What would make you think that any of us would shit on Jimmy Fallon?
I just be like, oh, we're Letterman people. He ruined late night. He rubbed Donald Trump's wig.
Fucking Letterman just capitalized on all the bullshit that Johnny Carson did before him. Get your fucking history straight.
Whoa. Anyway, Drew Barrymore.
I'm fucking hot
also,
about this shit.
And I love sports position. I miss sports right now. I miss baseball. I'm usually into baseball for April and May, and then if the Rockies don't suck, I jump back in a little later. Baseball is a rough sport to be a fan of, and I know you guys didn't really grow up with the team, so it's a little tougher, but it's a grind, man. When I had a year of my life where I was super depressed, I watched like 140 Rockies games. I had a 12-hour working 12-hour a day working job. I was installing blinds. I'd come home, watch Rocky's game, and go to bed. Like, it was beautiful and miserable all at the same time.
Dude, if you're worried about what I'm going to say about Jimmy Fallon, you don't want to hear what I'm going to say about baseball. So,
Oh boy, this thing is. I know I'm going to be here standing for something that I shouldn't be. The other one is Step Up 3, which I think has plot holes, and the main romance is ridiculous, but the secondary romance is great. There's some bad acting. It's really fun, and I think it's something you guys wouldn't ever have watched or watch. And the dancing is like phenomenal, and so it's an interesting element of filmmaking. So I need you guys to just tell me. No, you guys have to.
This is either a pro or a con. If we watch Step Up 3 again, me and Tyler are going to tell the story about when we saw Step Up 2 again, and it's maybe the most told story. That's probably been recorded on this podcast
100%.
3 times, and anyone who knows us and we've ever talked about Step Up, they know that story already. So that's like either you love that story and you'll get to hear it again, maybe we'll change a couple details, or you hate that story, we should fucking watch a baseball movie.
Well, I haven't heard the story.
There's very little baseball in Fever Pitch, by the
some
way.
people over to have that same vibe as Step Up 2, because there's no way it's going to feel the same.
Who would we invite to recreate that?
Just put up posters of like people who are really into dancing at movies. Come over.
Yeah.
Come to my house.
Justin or Gwen, do you guys have any sort of opinions on this?
I want to see the dancing. I like being amazed at people.
All right, we're watching Step Up 3. We're getting the Step Up 2. I want you guys to look back. Let's spice it up. We need some more. We need to be slightly different than last time. I'm gonna watch Fever Pitch by myself.
I'm gonna find a way to paint us as the villains in that story. Like I said, I'm giving myself a challenge.
All right.
Because we were heroes for going to that fucking movie.
I think I can make some arguments I could convince people that I was the villain in certain scenarios.
What's the worst movie that you weren't like, oh hell no, but that someone else took you to, that you watched the whole thing, but you like sincerely when you left were just like, oh man.
High School Musical 2.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
I've never seen any of them.
Yeah, I don't even know. That is a tough question. I have to think about that. But there are movies that I was like, I don't want to fucking go to this movie, and someone's like, you need to come to this movie, and then I went and saw Cabin in the Woods, and I was like, holy fuck.
That's how it was with the Batman Begins. I'm like, that movie looks so stupid. And then when the credits roll, I was like, holy shit, it can't be over. No.
I took myself to Sucker Punch and hated it.
That
shouldn't have taken myself to Sucker Punch.
Tyler took me to Sucker Punch in his attic, and we are
in
still
my
friends
attic?
somehow. I was going to call it the Den of Iniquity, and then I was like, then it sounds even weirder.
I didn't take you. I invited you and Mike over to my house.
Were you in schoolgirl outfits?
Oh my gosh. That reminds me, just hearing Sucker Punch again, me and Josh were talking about the Snyder Cut, and Josh was like, it baffles me that anyone who has seen any of Zack Snyder's movies wants to see a director's cut of one of his movies.
That is true. I don't understand, but I'm like, I will watch it out of morbid curiosity.
The only defense I will make is the director's cut of Watchmen is a much better movie than the theatrical cut of Watchmen. But it's also longer than the theatrical cut of
But here's the
Watchmen,
thing,
which
the
is very
the
long.
problem with Zack Snyder's movies is not the editing or the visuals at all. It's the writing.
True.
So it's like,
Have you watched Watchmen yet on HBO?
I have not. It's
think
on my
you'll really
list.
like it. I know
It's
you're a
like
busy
it's one of those
man.
things like emotionally it
Right,
feels
right.
like it's going to be heavy, and I'm
Do you feel like there's been positive reaction around you or online that you've seen that would give you?
no. I'm very excited to watch
Okay,
it.
okay.
I
am worried, but at the same time, like I really think it was a perfect piece of television. I tell you guys, I once dragged I was going with 4 girls and me, and I dragged my best friend who was like, "It's us and 4 girls. This is a good idea. This is a movie that I wanted to put on this list, but you guys would have not done it." And it was I loved it and I cried a lot, and he was so mad I brought him. But I bought him Red Robin afterwards. It's The Fault in Our Stars. So
I loved the book.
did you? Yeah. See, I don't think the movie's that different. Some people are just like, why do you, that is like sadness porn, and I'm like, well, you gotta cry sometimes, just like you gotta blow your load sometimes. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
All right.
This
Every
has
goddamn
been Words
time.
to Live by Mitchell Marshall.
That's what this whole thing is really a preamble. All right, we're gonna watch Step Up 3. It's next week. This was a lot of fun. I'm so glad to be back hanging out with you guys and being around humans and talking about movies and stuff. So much better than Discord, where like half of our cameras didn't even work anyway. So it was even less personal.
Somehow, sometimes those conversations I felt even further away from people. Sometimes it was like, it's so close. I'm so close, and yeah.
I was trying
glad
so
that we're
hard
together.
not to like put into my mic, and I would do it every time.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been the Rewatchers on the pod. Godzilla. How? That was fun. That was 2 hours ago. My name is Mitchell Marshall, and I've been here along with
Tyler McKinley.
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler Harris.
Justin Hammer.
See you later.
Ready.